insights, and I'm delighted to be moderating this exciting panel today on how AI will impact global energy trading and the game changer this technology will be. We've got 30 minutes to get into this subject. It's a massive one. Everyone who is involved in business, just life in general, over the last 2 years, you will have started to see the huge transformation that is coming from the deployment of AI technology. It might be in your office working environment where you're using emails to draft AI. It may be on the trading floor where increasingly you're using AI to develop trading strategies, to analyze data. Or it could be in a different form of life, and you might be just a podcaster on Instagram or other social media, using it to create multimedia and save some time and do more. So it's an incredible efficiency gain. I think I was looking at some reports from earlier in last year. Russell Hardy, the CEO of Vitol, mentioning that AI, there was an arms race going on amongst traders to invest in this technology. And I think in the context of that, I'm going to come straight to you, Chris. If you can introduce yourself, Dr. Chris Cooper from ADNOC, just kind of what you do at ADNOC, what your role is around AI, and just give us a bit of a sense, just to set the scene, really, for the conversation. How is ADNOC using AI at the moment? Can you give us some examples and, what can we see coming forward in 2025 from ADNOC in the AI space?
Yeah, sure, Andy. Thanks very much. So Chris Cooper. I've been with ADNOC only just over a year, actually, but here in the region for many, many more than that. And my role and remit when I came in was to help drive the focus around leveraging AI across the entire value chain of ADNOC's business. So I started looking after a joint venture they had with Group 42 on building the AI solutions. So what we've done is we're very fortunate here in the UAE that for many years now, we really have been, I would suggest, the leading light in terms of leveraging AI. The first country to have a dedicated minister of AI, the first country to have a university targeted at graduate level, only AI focus with Mohammed bin Zayed University of AI. So with that, we've been very fortunate that we've had an early focus on getting all the ducks lined up to understand how do we leverage AI and where's it going to have the biggest impact. And the one thing we have done is we've recognized that in terms of raising the adoption of AI, it really is a mindset shift. And to do that, you've got to educate. So we've had a big focus on educating the entire workforce of ADNOC. So, I can tell you between June and December last year, we educated over 30,000 staff. And even the senior execs had 3 days of training, deep immersion in terms of understanding all the terms around AI, generative AI, model-based NLP, and so on, because we needed to remove that elephant in the room of, is AI going to take my job? And now what's happened, all those staff have come to us and they're coming to us with ideas of where they believe AI could or should have a positive impact. So as a result, we've actually built and we're now deploying solutions literally all the way through upstream. So right from the drilling level, at the well level, the reservoir level, all the way through downstream, even into health and safety, and also looking at the emissions aspect as well. So we've literally proliferated, and we are only scratching the surface. But it came up actually on a radio interview earlier this week where they were asking the question, does anyone know of a company that's generated value from AI? And my response was, well, we as ADNOC, actually, even though we're scratching the surface, we actually generated $500 million of net value last year alone in 2024 from a plethora of AI and digital transformation projects that we rolled out across our business.
So that's 2024. What's that target in 2025?
Nothing but larger. As I said, look, we're more than scratching the surface. We're really getting into the grain now. And we're continuing to focus and understanding, first of all, qualifying as we're moving from model-based AI. We've been moving towards and moving through generative AI. And even now, as we're going into 2025 and beyond, there's actually a growing focus now on agentic AI. And I think that's a term you're going to hear a lot more of.
I'm going to come to you now, Richard. You're in Switzerland, the center of commodities trading globally. Are we going to see use of agentic AI in trading houses in Switzerland there in Zug? What's the talk in the coffee houses there around AI, how it's being deployed, how companies are investing? What's that relationship between efficiency that you can get from AI and this ethics question, which again, it keeps coming up. Can we trust it? AI, can we rely on it? What are the risks around AI going wrong?
Thank you, Andrew. So quick word. So I'm Richard, CEO of INAIT, Switzerland-based. So we are really an AI innovator at the very cutting edge. We are building essentially high-performance forecasting and learning algorithms, and we are very strongly linked into the fintech, so which is our really main strategic business focus, and thereby, as you were alluding to, so we're working with investment banks more in the equity trading space, but also in the commodity space as well. And I can only confirm what you and also Andrew, and Chris have alluded to. It's not the question mark game changer. It's already happening, right? I think you cited the Vital CEO. Everybody knows it's an arms race in the sense the technology is already there. You have to make use of it, and it's an absolute necessity. It's not a question that you have a choice whether or not you go into that. You really have to make some smart choices that you cover your basic needs, maybe the LLM space, and crunching a lot of data, have a good, in a way, knowledge management. That's maybe the basis. But as Chris alluded to now, these more powerful AI agents, or what we are doing also, these high performance algorithms that will decide the race, who gets more out of his data, who gets more out of their trading bets. So I can only confirm that we are in various areas, electricity, equity, as I was saying, and there is a big appetite to better understand what the technology can offer, but also to balance, let's say, opportunities and risks, right? It's not magic, as also Chris said. AI and different technologies have been used for decades. It's really on our side. The key point is that we make our partners understand, let's say, the algorithm design, how decisions are taken based on the model, that the data is top quality, and that we ensure this kind of human oversight, right? What happens if scenarios, if the projections are wrong, if something surprising is happening. So all this trust that the specialists have to build now towards the industry expert, that is critical. That is not really yet done. I think that is happening now. And only when there is a full leverage between really sector expertise and technical expertise, you will see the full power, the joint combination, if you want, of AI experts and energy experts.
So on that point, I'm going to come to you, Morgan. Dr. Morgan Eldred, you run a consultancy advising energy companies, oil and gas companies, about how to deploy specialist digital technology like AI in their businesses, digital energy. What are you seeing, in terms of in the industry? Are companies like ADNOC, like Vitol, like some of the other trading companies that, are well known in the energy sector, are they choosing to build their own AI solutions, or are they going to Microsoft and are they taking ChatGPT? Are they going to Google? Are they looking at using Anthropic Claude from Amazon, AWS? What's the approach? Is it, go to the established providers, these large-scale companies which are doing this technology in bulk, or is it really taking it in-house and building it bespoke and developing their own large language models from their own data sets and kind of scaling up in that way?
So it's a great question, and I think you've hit upon the dilemma. And let me kind of start with my kind of viewpoint, which is when we're talking about artificial intelligence and AI, what we're talking about is intelligence. And organizations need to understand how they infuse human and artificial intelligence together. And the race is not necessarily about the best model, it's necessarily the best tech. The race is about intelligence. Who is going to have the most intelligent organization by infusing the humans and the technology? Let me kind of first start with there. I'm seeing a host of companies really struggle with AI. And it's because of the points that are there. People see AI as, oh, it's a tool, because historically it's a technology, it's a tool. We take it, we plug it in, we install it, we go. Well, guess what? As we've mentioned, everyone's data is different. The models, how they're built, is different. So it's not plug and play. I mean, one could say SAP itself is not necessarily plug and play, but that mindset is still very much about it's a technology, it's plug and play. No, it's an intelligence thing that you have. You will have custom bespoke. So you need the right technical architecture that's there. And that is critical. Then you have organizations that are saying, we want to be a leader in this. We want to own it. We want to have the IP. We want to be that do this. And there's been some successes. There's been a lot of failures, right? And a lot of the failures have come because, if we're looking at our industry, right, the energy markets, the trading that goes on, we don't have the best in terms of fast transactions, other than some trading. We're not set up for that. The capital that's deployed is 25-year investments. And as such, technology, according to Moore's law, which is the pace of chips, and now we're starting to see that with NVIDIA's stock price, it moves so fast that you can't keep up. The governance processes to control things don't allow the innovation that comes in. The vendor management part is, well, I can only see you as a vendor, as a technology, or as a service provider. I don't see that you're bringing in intelligence to my organization that I need to infuse. So I still see that companies are struggling. And it's basically because they don't have the right strategy. Now, ADNOC is obviously, let's say, as we said, is a leader in that. So they would have gone through some of these growing pains before, and they would be open to learning to that. And like all companies, and humans, nobody's perfect. A lot of companies are still in denial about the successes they made because they might have seen them as failures due to they are evaluating it the wrong way. The key,
Are those, just to push you on that point, are those companies mainly in the national oil company sector versus the IOCs? I mean, I've had conversations with the IOCs where, they've been open developing their own AI tools for things like relationship management, etc. Is it more the NOCs that are kind of lagging in this field? I mean, I think ADNOC's a bit of a different example, being a bit of a hybrid, I would say.
Clearly, the NOCs are a little bit further behind the curve because their business is, again, capital deployment and land management, right? The IOCs, land management is not as such their part. So they've got a greater need for innovation, but they still are dinosaur. Well, they're still old fossil fuel-based companies. They're large. They're not based to innovate. I'm seeing the independents that are coming in. I'm seeing some of the service companies that are providing services and solutions that are coming in. They're the ones that are really taking the bull by the horn because they truly understand it's about infusing intelligence into the organization.
So I'm going to take that one forward, and I make my apologies because I'm completely deviating from the list of questions here, and this is the danger from asking a journalist to moderate these panels. We get into the conversation, it gets more and more interesting. So I think it's really interesting and fascinating. I mean, I've been a reporter covering energy for 25 years almost, and the trajectory of how energy companies, be it oil and gas, traditional pure play, IOCs, NOCs, or whether it's actually utilities or anyone in the commodity space, have they tried to diversify their business? Some examples, you've had IOCs go heavily into selling food and beverage from traditional fuel sites. You've had IOCs in the UK, for example, launch things like broadband internet access, areas where you can find growth for the business and diversify. You've had some IOCs go into mining, for example. There's a lot of cross similarity between the businesses. They're both extractive industries, for example. And this is my point. The dawn of AI, it's all about data, and it's all about data centers. We've had a big pullback from a lot of IOCs in Europe, for example, around this diversification into utilities where it hasn't been more profitable. Chris, question to you to start. Are the likes of Shell, BP, or even ADNOC and Aramco in the future going to go into the data center business? Because effectively, it's the same thing. It's extracting data. It's not an extractive industry in the sense of commodities, but it is extractive in the sense of technology. It's extractive in the sense of data, and it's about controlling and storing and adding value to that commodity, as it were, or is that too much of a reach?
Well, look, I mean, whilst I don't hold a crystal ball, I don't possess to actually own one. But let me just take a little step back, if I may, just going back on some of the points that Morgan raised. In terms of the AI deployments, a lot of the companies have failed because they've got the wrong strategy. And strategy was the word that I want to highlight here. I see so many companies building AI solutions and then looking for the problem to solve. Okay. What we've done very carefully, I believe, within ADNOC is focus on where will we get the most value out of these solutions. So we do a prescriptive piece of work up front to qualify and quantify by building this solution, whether we build it or whether we take it from commercial off-the-shelf solutions, which is going to drive the most value over which timeline. So there's an incredible opportunity there, but it is about getting the strategy right. As Morgan said, there's a lot of AI companies that fail, but I mean, ADNOC was the leading party in an organization, AIQ, where it became a unicorn of the region only last year, okay, and got a valuation of 1.4 billion. So we have good examples, even here in the UAE, where they're leading the way. Is ADNOC going to build data centers? As I say, I couldn't possibly answer that, but in order for us to build the right solutions that will significantly impact positively on value, you need data. We've got 90 years worth of that. You need the infrastructure, so you need access to those data centers. And you're already hearing, the investments going on, certainly in the UAE, and even, organizations in the UAE that are known for building retail and personal homes now building data centers. So there's a big focus on that because there's big business in it. But at the same time, the third leg of that stool is people. And the one thing we found is the people is not just about data scientists and software engineers. It's bringing the subject matter experts from the industry that understand what they're trying to mimic. So for us, by bringing in the SMEs from the industry, we're able to build the most accurate solutions possible. And also partnership. It touches back on the question you raised with Morgan. Do we build them ourselves or do we take them from commercial off the shelf? We actually partner very heavily, with the likes of the big system integrators. We've partnered with, and we continue to with SLB, with Halliburton and others, because it's important. Why build something if it's already available? So it's about having the right defined strategy that will have the best impact.
Morgan, I'll come to you. Do you see, to my question, could you see energy companies, traditional oil and gas companies looking at data centers as a way to diversify, or is that not the pathway into getting value from AI for these businesses?
Well, I think I'm going to now go a little bit scientific since we're just having such a great call and some science with some science fiction. So let's go back to the Matrix. Right, right, a red pill, blue pill. But I mean, if we see that the AI in the models become like a part of the data center, and that becomes a utility that you've got a model, you pull it here, you pull it there. That's then a consumption-based service like a utility. These models, the GPU chips, the speed of them, going back to Moore's law, because there's all this science that's historically there, has a huge energy consumption part that's there. You are seeing building data centers where you need EPC style projects because they're billions of dollars to come and deliver them. I think the energy mix is changing. We're seeing EVs. The world is now on just cars. Our main consumer is changing with EVs. I think, China's now moving ahead from Germany because they had history of building mobile devices. So they got mobile devices correct. To extend that to a car was then they had knowledge and experience, where if you looked at Germany, historically, were very good at the rotating equipment of the cars. They didn't have that mobile technology that they were really investing in. So they now are starting to move behind in that space. So the world and the energy that we're doing is shifting. So I think while we still need oil hydrocarbons and there's still growing population, I think the demand is going to change. I think the way that oil and gas companies are doing scenario planning in terms of historically, let's say if it was the BP outlook, the Shell scenarios that occur, they now need to take new aspects into it because everyone now understands AI. Everyone now understands it's got huge water and power perceptions, and you need these data centers. So the new utilities of the future are there. So I think it's inevitable where that moves, because one could say, is Google or is Microsoft, is Amazon, are they not utility energy companies? You know, if you really were to say it, are they not energy companies if you just look at it in a different way?
I guess that's my point is, that these tech companies, one of the things that really, where they stand out is that they diversify much quicker. They're much more disruptive in industries. They're much more entrepreneurial and willing to take a risk than, more regulated businesses in the energy space. What is the threat to a company like ADNOC or a company like Shell or BP from Google deciding it wants to get into commodities trading and use its huge AI models and its huge tech to leverage that? Or is that again a step too far? Are we going to see players come into this? I mean,
is that
Morgan,
not,
if you take that all
maybe
in, then
that's
Richard, I'll
X,
come
not
to you.
Google.
Pardon?
Maybe that's X, not Google.
Well, again, there is an element of that, right? With what Elon Musk is doing and X and some of the other AI related initiatives. I know that his Grok platform on X, that is something that is being used to monitor the market, to monitor sentiment. Richard, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, maybe a few points. I think very generally, I mean, there is, of course, a race. Also, NVIDIA, Jensen is saying that, right? What is the next generation of chips? And, biology on chips make it much more energy efficient. That is beyond energy trading, of course. A race is on the paradigm, kind of post-transformer paradigm. So that's a huge, let's say, fight. Which paradigm will win and who can bring the next generation of chip or other technology there. But in general, I agree. I mean, I still think a bit like Chris has alluded, the real power lies in the combination of very, very deep cutting edge technology, AI or other expertise with very, very deep sector expertise. So I'm a bit skeptical that these pure tech players can easily take over and enter these markets that are not just driven, I think, as Morgan has said, by pure technology performance, right?
If I can just interrupt there. So you don't see an environment. So, in 10 years' time, there is no human on the trading floor. It is just fully automated by AI.
I mean, it's a philosophical question and strategic choices by regulators and market participants. I think to a very large degree, anything that is automatable, anything that is predictable will be taken over by AI. But there's a fine line where you put this human oversight and this, kind of kill switch applications, and what you have to ensure to the market, to the regulators, that you master your highly automated trading applications. I don't think it will be a science fiction, AI takes over scenario. It will be very gradual and hopefully in a responsible manner, because of course, where AI has just an objective advantage in performance and in a responsible, explainable way, I think the logic would demand that you would take the more performing setup and therefore replace more what is today assumed by human. But that doesn't mean the ultimate control, the decision on the strategy, the decision on what exact bet you actually want to take is not left to human and ultimate human decision.
So you still see that human in the loop. Chris, I'm going to come to you because ADNOC, in the last 5 years has built its own, very impressive trading division. And, it's done it, obviously by hiring some of the best minds in trading around the world. If you were doing that today, would you go AI first?
Look, at the end of the day, what is AI doing in this space? It's analyzing historical data and real-time data, and it's analyzing patterns. And AI can do that quicker than a human trader for sure. Okay. I don't believe that means the human trader is going to disappear overnight. Okay. There is going to be a transition period, and who knows what's around the corner. We've talked about agentic AI, which is about, providing almost like an autonomous control piece. But look, who knows what's around the corner? You raised the question earlier, is ADNOC going to build data centers? And I purposely kept away from it. But, let's remember what the hyperscalers are doing. Microsoft have just invested in 3 Mile Island, okay? The whole nuclear plant. Because again, one thing you are going to see is that these data centers need to be built close to the power generation. That's a critical thing we need to understand. Yes,
And you've got that big
well.
nuclear power station, right, out in Baraka. It's
Look, we're very fortunate, okay? For us, we use carbon neutral fuels, okay? It comes from generally either nuclear or renewables, through Masdar. So we're very fortunate here in the UAE, absolutely. So from a sustainability angle, we're definitely leading the way.
that brings us kind of conveniently, I think, to this next question about regulation. So no one kind of sees an environment where, certainly in the trading space, we see full automation, we see full AI running trading decisions. Certainly it's going to be important and it's going to be more impactful as it goes forward. And the onus for tighter regulation and this question around ethics is going to become more pertinent. AI does make mistakes. There is a risk around hallucination. I think in any industry that is looking at this technology, the importance of keeping a human in the loop is absolutely critical. But regulation seems to be struggling to catch up. Where do you see that going? I'm going to come to you, Dr. Morgan. Do you see that there's some sort of international kind of rules-based system that could govern regulation of AI, or do you really think it's going to remain the Wild West for the foreseeable future, which is what it looks like?
So if I think about GDPR, which took, about 7 years to actually get ratified from when drafts came out. And now the EU's got a framework for AI, which, of course, it's been released and it needs to be updated, and nobody else is there. You've got the UAE, which has some principles. You've got some other countries moving. So we know historically the legal system is not going to be able to, it always catches up, because that's what happens. We figure out what it is and then we set the rules for it, right? So that's always the case. I think it will become more and more predominant in the years that we start to see, because I look at this like the late 90s, right? You had the .com, the World Wide Web came to everyone, and we didn't know what was going to happen. And then the economies that picked it up within the businesses and drove that forward, whether that's new business models, whether that's just taking brick and mortars into that change. And I think, and then of course you've got the EU approach, you've got the US approach, which is more laissez-faire, and then the rest of the world is there. So definitely we're all going to be chasing behind. But I think this is going to be, the impact is going to be big. For me, it's a reset of technology. And because it's out in the public domain, AI is there. Every continent, every nation, every company, every industry, and every person has the ability to leapfrog the others if they learn to apply it and use it. So I think it's going to have to happen, but I think there will be trade wars, and people they're going to want their economies to stay strong. So they're going to want to regulate and control that. They're not going to want others to take that.
It's a very interesting idea. So you could actually get more protectionism as a consequence of AI. You could get more walls being built because the companies that have the technology, the generative models, the large language models, they will increasingly struggle to get hold of the data because the providers of the data will ring fence it, and you could get, a less collaborative environment as a consequence. That could be one of the risks. So just to finish, we're coming up to the end of the session. I'm going to go to everyone. I'm going to start with Richard. 2025, what should we expect in this space? What's the big wow moment that we can expect to see in AI and the world of energy trading?
I think you will see the first real, let's say, cutting-edge collaborations between large players and industry leaders. I think you will see really not only, what you now, LLMs and this kind of ChatGPT-like knowledge management and what you can do with that. You will see other type of algorithms emerging that will create other type of advantages. So I think it is a race. I mean, that's what is great about trading. Very competitive, may the better win, right? The better combination of good data, good strategy, good human, insights or market insight and best technology. I think there we will see really a step forward. I think it has taken a bit of time now in this sector, but now this is coming, like it is coming
Chris,
in investment banking.
we're slightly over time, but I'm still going to go to you and let Morgan finish. Chris, quickly, 15 seconds. What can we expect?
Crikey, 15 seconds. There's so much opportunity still out there that's untouched. Okay. AI is about taking insights from data. We need to analyze the data of what's coming out the ground to determine the quality of the products. That can then influence the trading prices. There's so much we can still do, and ethics doesn't come into it. This is using our data that's safe, holistic, without going to the outside world, without hallucinations. There's a massive opportunity there. Watch this space. Smarter, faster decisions, reducing risk and increasing profitability.
Fantastic. Morgan.
I think you'll see the operators selling their data to the traders rather than the traders buying the hydrocarbon and selling it. I think
very interesting idea. So maybe in the future, ADNOC will be selling its data to the likes of Vitol and Glencore and these other trading houses instead of selling its oil.
I'm not saying who it is, but I know it's on the horizon.
That's fascinating. A great way to end the session. Look, gentlemen, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I think it's actually probably the most important of all the debates that are going to go on today in the Energy Outlook Forum 2025, brought to you by Gulf Intelligence. It's been a real pleasure on my part from S&P Global Commodity Insights to moderate the session. I wish you all the best of luck in your endeavors in 2025 and hope to bump into you in the year. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.